Guys, my contact information is right there. My email address and Twitter handle. What I'm going to show tonight is a PowerPoint presentation that I can email you. So if you want the presentation, get that email down. I have a little bit of film I'm going to try to show, but a lot of what I'm going to talk about is on this PowerPoint. And then if you want to get in contact with me, there's all my info. Before we get cranked up, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. We found out today down here in South Louisiana. I'm in Baton Rouge, but in New Orleans. Man, one of the greats, gentleman by the name of Wayne Reese, who got his 250th win this year at McDonough 35 Public High School there in New Orleans. Had coronavirus and passed away today. So, we're all getting a new ball, and this has been good in terms of our growth. But man, every chance you get, hug your loved ones and say a few prayers for all the people that have been affected by this. I'm sure a lot of people on the talk tonight know somebody or have somebody in their family that's been affected. So, but we'll go ahead and get it cranked up. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna just go through some random practice habit notes, okay? And then after that, I'm going to go through an entire week of practice, including talking about this year we switched to a walkthrough on Wednesday and a full speed practice on Thursday. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Huddle homework. So we instituted this a few years ago. So after practice, every day the coaches will get with the players in their position groups, and they will assign. They'll ask them how much real homework they have, and if they have real homework, we kind of bypass them doing huddle homework. But we'll ask them for specifics of things that they need to answer about the practice film. And so, for instance, for the offensive lineman, if we were working a specific combo that day, the O-line coach might have the O-lineman up after practice and say, all right, guys, look, I want 3 clips from practice today where you had great footwork on the Cardinal double team. And then I want 3 clips where you didn't have good footwork with explanations. And the kids have to use our terminology, and the coaches will have their different methods. Some coaches like them to group text it. Some do it in an email. Our D-line coach does it in the huddle app through his D-line group message. It's really a good way to kind of focus the kids on what they watch when they go home at night from practice, rather than just telling them to make sure that they watch the practice film. I've heard different people talk about how much they expect their kids to watch film when they go home. We're a pretty high academic institution. Our kids have a ton of homework when they go home. And if we can get our kids to watch 15 minutes a night on top of what we're already doing with meetings, I think that we're doing pretty good, being realistic. I've heard guys say, hey, my guys have to watch an hour a night. For one thing, if I required that, they'd probably fire me, no matter how many state championships I won. And number 2, the kids would never go to sleep because of how much homework they have. I have an example of one right here. I got to click through it. So here's an example of huddle homework, and this was one that was texted in. This is a O-lineman. So assignment, clip number. Hey, my assignment, man the DN, evaluation. I kicked once to get in front of him, but from there I stopped kicking. Kick foot was weak, which let the DN turn me inside. You got to stay square, strong. So you see him using the language. All right, clip 128. Here's the play. It was 25, which is power to the left. It was to an over front assignment. I was cardinaling to the -1 in the kid's evaluation. My initial step looked like a right flat step, should have gained ground, blah, blah, blah. So they send this in every night to us that they have practice film to watch. Really a good tool to see how your kids are evaluating themselves and making them use the language. So Again, I'm just going through some random things that I think we do in practice that are good or that may help people. We do QC exchange to start every practice. It's got the meshes and the exchanges are at full speed. The centers are involved in that, and anybody who might be a center is involved in that. So you'll see 5 or 6 quarterbacks and 5 or so centers snapping the ball with all the tailbacks and getting meshes. Call a play out for your centers when you're doing QC exchange so that they have to take a step. Even if it's not the play that the Q and the tailback are doing. Man, I see so many times people doing QC exchange and the center never moves his feet. He just stands there, snaps the ball, and then he looks back to see where the ball hit. And you're really defeating the purpose there for the center. Spotting the ball. This is huge at our practice. So big that if nobody's there to do it or can't do it, I'll do it as the head coach. And you really need to celebrate those people that are spotting the ball, and learning how to spot the ball correctly is a really, really important task to make practice go. We have a lot of kids on the team, but we don't have an army of managers and equipment people, stuff like that. As a matter of fact, we have 0. We have no people that help as managers. So we're always finding ways to use our own kids to aid in the practice. Another thing, head coach's job. I think this is the head coach's job for us because I'm not a coordinator. These are things that I believe the head coach has to take care of during practice, okay, and set clear expectations. One is effort. And the reason I say that is a lot of times, you know, if you get into a situation where the defense is going at one effort and the offense is going at a different effort, and the coaches aren't really sure what the effort is supposed to be, and maybe the O wins the drill, but the D thought the effort was supposed to be a certain way and the offense was going too hard. That's a really quick way to develop some animosity between coaches and between players in the program. If the head coach is setting the expectation for effort, then that is the expectation, and whoever doesn't meet it isn't meeting it. And so that is really important, especially in competitive parts of practice and in any part of the practice. If I see a guy that I don't think is given the effort that we've asked for that drill, that's my job. Another thing that I think is the head coach's job is teaching tackling. And I'm an offensive guy, but tackling is extremely important and something that ultimately I am responsible for. Something that we've done in the past, we haven't done it lately. It's still on our huddle account, but film one of your defensive coaches teaching the entire team how to tackle properly. It might take you 2 minutes to film it, but that's a liability thing. If something were to ever happen, God forbid, you've got it on your huddle account of one of your coaches teaching all the players the proper technique and tackle. And then the third thing that I think is the head coach's job is ball security. And I'll talk a little more about ball security, but at our practices, in our games, anytime, anywhere a player is holding a football in our program, they're required to hold that ball with the 4 elements of ball security that we define, and we define it clearly. And any lacks in that is my job as the head coach to correct during practice. Some more random practice thoughts. All right. When it's possible, move the ball up to the players so that they don't have to run all the way back to the original line of scrimmage. I can remember playing receiver in college and just being so frustrated when I would run a vertical route and then have to run all the way back to where the ball was snapped when, we just ran 4 verticals. Heck, every player just about ran a 30-yard sprint, and then we got to go 40 yards to get back to the line of scrimmage. You can cut down on the running that your kids have to do. You can cut down on some of their legs when possible. There's sometimes it's not possible, but when it's possible, move the ball up to where the majority of the kids are. If you ran 4 verticals, all right, move it up 15 yards from where it was. And then the linemen, they'll have to move a little bit, which that's probably good for them. And then the receivers and DBs don't have to go as far. This is a big one. Every player on our team knows this. And And it's really, really important. And that is never spot the ball in practice on a 5-yard line. In other words, on a yard line. When you think about all of the things we give our kids in terms of distance, we tell the quarterback to stand at 5 yards. We tell the DB, give him a 7-yard cushion. We might tell the punt returner to line up at 35 yards. The tailback in the eye, toes at 7.5. If every time at practice you're putting the ball on a yard line, those kids never actually have to do any kind of figuring as to where they actually are. Receiver depth on routes. You're telling a kid run a 12-yard route. If the ball's on a line all the time at practice, you go 12 yards, it's easy. You go 2 lines plus 2. I mean, how hard is that? But in a game, how often is the ball on a 5-yard line? It's hardly ever dead on the line. And so the kids are constantly having to evaluate distance in a game when the ball's not on a yard line. So don't spot the ball on a yard line during practice. We try to get, when we script, and I know to some of the speed guys, this might sound like we're not doing very much, but when it's carded practice, we got cards, we got scout groups, we're showing them a card, we're lining up. Our default is 6 plays per 5 minutes. So if we have a 10-minute segment for inside drill, we should be able to get 12 plays in. That's our play numbers. Always signal from the sideline for periods where it's useful. We huddle an inside drill. I'll talk about that later, but signal from the sideline, man. Those receivers have to look all the way across the field to get that signal in a game. And if they never do that in a practice, then when you get them to the game, they're gonna freak out because they can't see the signal. And then switch sides. If you always go in the same direction for a certain drill, like skell or team or whatever it is, make sure you're signaling from the other side so that the X receiver who's always right there by the coach, he can ask the coach what the route is, and then in the game, all of a sudden he's on the other side and he's all by his lonesome and he can't figure out what to run. So signal from the sideline when you can, switch sides when you can. Coaching on the run, hey, everybody does that now. But one of my main points to our coaches is, it doesn't work if you're not filming practice and reviewing and correcting that film with the players. You can't coach on the run and say you're going to fix things later if you're not filming it and then going over it with the players in meetings. Mental reps, I got a clip I'll show you of mental reps, quarterbacks and skell, behind the starting quarterback and going through their progression, okay? Here's a clip of that. I'll show you right here. Let's see. So, let's turn. Let me turn this audio off. All right. So if you notice in this clip, we've got the starting QB who's in, and then the backups are behind it. They even clap. All right. Watch them. They'll take their drop, and watch how their eyes match the eyes and the read of the starter. They're on 1, they go to 2, they work their way around to 3, and then all the way around to 4, and they even will step and fake the throw so that they can get a full mental rep behind the starter. For us, we got a big program. Our QBs sometimes are senior 1-year starters. Our kid this year never started a game before for us other than in injury time. And he was a senior, and it was his first time to lead the show, and he set all kinds of records this year. And I attribute that to how hard that kid worked behind the scenes and getting his mental reps when the senior that was in front of him was the starter. So mental reps are really important. And every chance you get, praise those guys for the mental reps that they're getting. Something offensively, when we go at speed, fast but sloppy offense, it's still just fast and sloppy, so going fast is in vogue, and we certainly do it. But if you're going fast and you're doing it with sloppy fundamentals or technique or ball security, then it's really defeating the purpose. Our spring, our summer, and our fall camp, those things are heavy in individual and fundamentals, so that later in the season we can focus a little bit less of our time in the fundamental part and more on the game plan aspects of what we're doing there. Okay. And then the early season, is we'll do a lot of individual. And then later in the season, we start tapering that so we can cut the practice schedule down a little bit. I'll show you some of that taper here in a minute. All right, a few more. We do more polishing group segments during the playoff time. It's a long season for us. We've been to the state championship. Let's see. We've been to the state championship 4 out of the last 5 years. 3 years in a row we've been there and won it once. And it's a long season. So as the season moves on, we try to taper practice a little bit. I'll show you some of that. The coaches are required to make notes on the practice film at home that night and then share that back to the players. And then pick out clips for the meeting the next day and make a playlist. So I kind of bounce around to the coaches' individual meetings before practice. And the coaches, they need to have a playlist, not just clicking through the practice film from the previous day, because we don't have enough time to get through every clip. And what clips need to be fixed the most. And so, instead of a typical practice playlist might have 120 clips on it if we film some individual work and all that, but you're not going to get through that many in a meeting. Your playlist should have 30 clips, and it should be organized in a certain way. If you're an O-line coach, maybe it's organized like, hey, we're going to look at all the powers first. So all the powers are up, and then inside zone, and then maybe some individual, or however you want to order it, but there should be evidence of your preparation for that, and the kids respect that. When the kids know that you put time into organizing the meeting, they pay attention better, they learn better. Make sure you got a plan for dealing with special schedules. The high school coaches, man, it never fails. Once a week, there's probably something different about the schedule and an exception to the normal routine. As a matter of fact, one of our coaches is kind of the special schedule guy who's responsible for that. He kind of lets me know, like, hey, we got a mass coming up. We're going to have shorter meetings, or, the juniors aren't going to be at school today because they're going to be on retreat, or whatever the case may be, having a plan for that. During the playoffs, and these are all random, guys, I'm bouncing around. I'm going to get a little more fluid here in just a second. During the playoffs, the coaches stayed behind after practice. The only time we ever stay behind after practice, and we script the following day of practice to let each coach say kind of what they need, what they want to see in the practice. Otherwise, the OC and the O-line coach will script practice either that night or during some of their off time the next morning. The OC will communicate with the position coaches at night on what plays that need to be corrected. Have a list of situations to work throughout the season. We have a Google Word document that we can add to at any time. And when a coach sees like a special situation, they can put it into the Google Doc. For example, 4th and 4, try to draw them off sides, punt, and have that and print it out before the season and make sure that you've kind of worked one of those in and out of your practice plan throughout the year.
Coach, I got a couple questions for you here.
Yeah, go ahead.
How long are those meetings before practice?
All right, I'm coming. I'm getting there. I got it all laid out for them. What else you got?
Do you have kids that go both ways? If so, do you have offensive defense meetings?
Yep, great question. So I've coached places where we did. At Catholic, we have 109 kids on the team, sophomore through senior. So, it's very much so split offense and defense. I think a lot of this stuff you can still do that way, and we've done it. When I was at Stanislaus, we only had about 50 kids on the team, freshmen through seniors, so we had some two-way guys. But a lot of what I'm showing you right now is for what we do at Catholic, where we don't necessarily have to do both ways. Now, we had a big O lineman this year that played O and D line, but by and large, we're two platoon.
Okay.
Any others?
Yes, one was in regards to what the enrollment was for your school, like school size.
Okay, yeah, we have 1,200 boys. It's an all-boys school, and we have 1,200 boys. That's eighth grade, a very small eighth grade, so mostly ninth through 12th grade. So that would be like a co-ed school having about 2,400 students.
And then one more question here, Coach. Do you believe in more reps and coaching less when y'all do inside run, 7-on-7 team?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're only correcting things that we can correct between one play to the next. At no point are we going to stop the play and hold the practice hostage before we can get the next rep. If you're getting 12 plays in 10 minutes and carding it and breaking the huddle and doing all this stuff, there's no way you can stop the whole thing to coach a kid. Now, we may rebound a play or something like that. Usually those are me and the DC are the ones that can do that. But yeah, we're going to get the reps. As long as we got it on film, we're going to make sure we correct it in a meeting.
Good to go, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah. What's important? So this was something we went and visited Georgia Southern a few years ago. Willie Fritz was the head coach, and they had these really cool, like wall placards or whatever, all across the facility that had, the plan to win, and it had all these 4 or 5 things. Everywhere a kid went in that facility, they saw that, and I really don't believe in interior decorating. I'm not a good interior decorator, so we don't have all kinds of cool wall art and all this kind of stuff. But I wanted a way to do that, and still have things that I could emphasize to the kids. So one year we started every meeting with, I would say, or the OC would say, what's important, and every offensive player would say, ball security, attention to detail, relentless effort. And that's the same way. That's the same thing as putting a pretty plaque on the wall. Is in making those kids say that every time, and not just saying it, but then emphasizing it in what you do. So it's a way to not spend any money, which we don't spend much money. It's a way to not spend any money, but still get the same effect. Skip down positive coaching. We try our best to say things like, hey, I have great ball security here, instead of don't fumble. It's like telling you right now, as you sit here watching this, don't think about the shoes on your feet. And now all of a sudden, now you feel the shoes on your feet and you weren't even thinking about it before, So try to phrase things in the positive way, Instead, a good example there is, instead of telling a kid, hey, don't fumble, it's really important you don't fumble right here. Tell them, hey, it's really important you protect the ball right here. Locker room visits after practice is over. The coaches, instead of going to lock themselves in the coach's office, we try to walk back through the locker room and sit down for a minute, 2 minutes max, with a kid maybe that we didn't coach that day, but maybe it's a defensive kid that gave a great look. Maybe it's a kid you don't normally get to talk to all the time in practice, and you just sit down with them. Hey, man, you did a great job. Or how's practice going? Just a real quick, because everybody does it. All the coaches come in. What do? We go right to the coach's office or conference room, and we close the door and we talk about practice. Before you do that, walk through the locker room and just sit down next to a kid and talk to them. Hold kids accountable, but don't ask them to be accountable to unrealistic things. A really good friend of mine, we hired as our receivers coach at Stanislaus one year, and he came in and told all the receivers, hey, we're going to be strong. It's going to be a really strong group. Man, if you can't bench 225, then you can't play on a Friday night. And I had to tell him, like, hey, man, if we keep that, if we hold them accountable to that, there will be no receiver loss, because we didn't have a single receiver that could bench press over 225. So hold them accountable, but make it realistic. Don't ask them to do something that is unrealistic that you can't hold them accountable to, because then here's what it does. It forces a kid to constantly decide, is this something he's actually going to hold me accountable for or not? And whereas if you tell them something and it's the gospel truth, then they'll believe you, you know. But you kind of become like the boy who cried wolf there. Skip down to the O-line scout sheet. So use your players as much as you can. Make them your own GAs. And one way that we do that is we have our JV players fill out a scouting report sheet on one of the defensive linemen, you know, from the opposing team. So if I'm the backup guard, the O-line coach is going to tell me, hey, fill your scout sheet out on number 92. And here's what the scout sheet looks like. Okay, and I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, but it's got his name, position, grade. Did he start against us last year? His height, weight, strengths. When they put the strengths, they need to include the clip numbers that show that. What are the weaknesses? What's his favorite pass rush move? Clip numbers for it. How does he play a down block? That's something that's really important to us. Is he underneath or is he over the top? When it's a read play, is he upfield or does he squeeze? Does he wrong shoulder or does he inside shoulder? Rate his ball get off. So when we rate ball get off, a 10 is ball moves, he moves. A 5 is the ball is halfway to the quarterback when he moves. And a 1 is the ball's in the QB's hands when he moves, if that's in the shotgun. So, and then everything else is kind of in between. So they rate the ball get off, they give some clip numbers there. How does he pursue? Can he be cut? Where does he play most often? Is he always the 3? Is he always the lefty tackle? What is that? Who's his backup? And the kid that fills the sheet out is responsible for telling the O-line coach, if I had 92 and I know his backup is 58, if 58 goes in the game, I'm the backup O-lineman. My job is to go tell the O-line coach, hey, 58's in, 58's in the backup. And then we may not do anything about it, or we may go right at 58, you know. So it puts some ownership on the kids. Really, really good way to use your own kids as GAs, essentially, and they learn a lot about you. Mm-hmm. All right, so the scout cards are really important for us. We redraw cards every day. So we don't draw the scout cards on Sunday or on the weekend or whatever. Our coordinators and our O-line coach, they draw a new set of cards every single day for practice because I want specific things on those cards. Like if the defense is going to run a certain blitz against a certain formation, I want that blitz drawn on the card so the offense can see what's getting ready to happen. That way our scout team at least has a fighting chance of getting the look right for the defense. And if one day, you know, if on Monday it's going to be blitz A, but on Tuesday it's going to be blitz B, that's a new card. That card has to be redrawn. Same thing with the offense. Maybe we want the end upfield on Monday, but we want him to squeeze on Tuesday. You got to go back and write that in. Everything gets carded. I'd say our coordinators probably draw between 45 and 50 cards every day. And we make multiple sets of them for the position groups. So if the scout O is going, there's a set of cards for the O-linemen, the receivers, the QBs. It's the same cards, but an extra set so that different coaches can show those cards to those kids. We throw them away at the end of every practice. Little pro tip, check the garbage cans and the field before a JV game so that the teams that you're getting ready to play, when they come in, make sure you didn't leave any cards laying around in the trash can or on the field that could get into the wrong hands. Here's an example of a card. So this is a defensive card for our scout O. And you can see he's drawn the blocking scheme for the O-lineman. He drew the blitz of what was going to happen. The top left is the card number. Top right is the hash. If this was an offensive card, it would have the offensive scheme in the bottom right corner. The bottom left corner is left blank for the staple. And OND cards are going to be exactly the same so that we can fly through these and flip through them quickly. All right, I'm going to skip into a couple of these things and get into the practice schedule because I know that's what a lot of people wanted to look at. Some always and never. Always hand the ball to the official after a play. The officials like that. They appreciate that, and it helps you run the next play faster. Always hold the ball correctly. I'll show you our ball security. We always field the punt at Catholic. We are always going to catch the punt, and we are never going to fair catch except in extreme circumstances. I was a punt returner myself, and I know this sounds crazy, but not having to think about fair catching the ball makes you catch the ball better. And you'll be amazed at how many times you don't fair catch and you run up and catch that thing and you run by all the traffic. I'm going to show you some clips right here, all in one season. A guy who was really good at this and never fair caught, and we ended up winning a state championship because of one of his punt returns. But the other thing is, it is extremely rare that the punt cover team can time up to decapitate you just perfectly. Most of the time, they got to come to balance, then tackle you, and it's no big deal. It's not even a big hit. So I'm going to show you some of these. This is part of our philosophy in practice and in games. Okay, so again, these are all in the same year. So here's the punt. Here's our returner. Get right up in there and field that thing. Who cares about, here we go. Who cares about it, about somebody getting in your face? They usually can't time it up. All right, so here's another one. All right, field it, no fair catch, right? That's one that a lot of times it kind of hung up in the air and short, that guys would fair catch. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to go up and catch it, and then we're going to go make something happen because of not fair catching that thing. So this one, he ends up cutting it back 7 times and scoring a touchdown. All right, same kid, okay? This is into the playoffs now. All right, look where he is, no fair catch. Run all the way up, catch that thing. All right, that to me was a 20-yard play because he didn't let it bounce, right? So no big deal, right? No big deal. Same game. Another really tight punt here that he catches on the run. Okay. Don't fair catch it. And then I'll skip you one. This is the state championship game. We ended up winning this game. This is my first year as the head coach. Here's one. Run up, catches it, runs by the whole crew because he caught it on the run. He ended up getting tackled right on the 1-yard line. We scored on the very next play. But our returners, that's why the guy you put back there, he's got to have balls of steel because we're not going to fair catch the thing. We're going to catch it, and we're going to try to return it.
Coach, got a question here.
Yep.
Do you determine no fair catch based on personnel, or do you always have good returners back there?
We're going to put somebody back there who will catch the thing. If they are the most dynamic player with the ball in their hands, but they refuse to catch the punt, they're not going to be back there. It might be the toughest, baddest dude we got that can't do anything with the ball when he catches it, but he's gonna field the thing because that's worth 20 or more yards every single time he catches the ball. And it drives me crazy to watch games where returners let the ball hit right in front of them and they lose 20 yards because the guy wouldn't go up and catch the thing. We always try to provide meaningful instruction. Never, come on, guys, hit somebody, block somebody, catch the ball. You know, if the receiver drops the ball and we yell at him, catch the ball, don't you think the kid wanted to catch the ball? Give him some meaningful feedback, okay? All right, so there's our ball security. Those are our 4 points of ball security. Every kid holding the ball has to hold it this way. Claw the ball, not with the finger point on the ball, but clawing it, where the point of the ball is between our index and middle finger. The wrist has to be above the elbow. We got to press the top half of the ball to our chest, and you shouldn't be able to see the ball from behind. We celebrate these with pictures when we find them as much as we can. That's our ball security. And it's all the time. If the kid's on the sideline holding a football and he's not holding this way, he's going to hear from you. All right, here you go. Weekly outline. So this is getting into the practice, okay? And I'm going to fly through this stuff so I can get to everything. But weekly outline. We never practice in full pads except for spring and fall camp, okay? We're always in shells or just helmets, or in our walkthrough day, we're in nothing but tennis shoes. We never tackle to the ground in a competitive segment except in spring and fall camp. This gets into some of the questions. 109 players on the roster, 10th through 12th grade last year. The JV and the varsity practice together. It's the same. It's all the same staff. Saturdays, everybody is off. We all work from home. Sunday, the coaches come in after church. The kids come in at 2 o'clock. They leave at 4:45. I'm going to go through each one of these days with some extreme specifics, but this is the outline. Kids are in at 2 and gone at 4:45. The coaches stay to finish up the game plan. Usually we're out by maybe 6:30 or 7 o'clock. With all this Zoom stuff, I'm intrigued by the opportunity to maybe leave when the kids leave and finish up at home remotely. Monday, we have meetings. It's a long practice. It's shells, so no knee pads. As a player, I was like, man, why do we wear knee pads for practice? Like, nobody even hits us in the knees. Why do we need knee pads? That's partly why we do that. And then Monday night, we play our JV games. Tuesday is our second in-season lift. We have meetings. We have another long practice, and then we're also in shells. Wednesday, we have meetings. Then that's our walkthrough day. We're off the field on Wednesdays at 3:30. They're not in helmets at all. Only thing they wear is their practice jersey and their practice shorts. They wear tennis shoes, and they even wear bucket hats and as long as it's not outlandish, they wear silly hats and stuff like that. And we're on them, and we're like robots with them so much that's like the one thing they get to do that's kind of not regulated. So I kind of let that go on Wednesday. Thursday is meetings. The JV guys lift. That practices in shells. It's still a game type speed. There's contact. There's just no tackling to the ground. That practice is about an hour and 20 minutes. All right, Saturday, coaching duties. Coaches and players are off. We start our individualized areas of the game plans. We should already have 2 games broken down. We finish tagging the opponent film from Friday night. Notes for each coach to present to the coordinator on Sunday. Talk over the phone on Saturday. Just kind of general remote communication. By Saturday night, all of the game film from the previous game should have notes on it, graded, and sent back out to the players. The OC by Saturday night makes his playlists, all right? These are going to be all the plays, then playlists of personnel that's similar to ours, formations similar to ours, playlists of plays that we run inside zone, 4 verticals, the screens, whatever. Third downs, goal line, short yardage, red zone, and then miscellaneous cut-ups, like all clips of a certain front or a certain blitz or a certain coverage. That's Saturday. Sunday, again, coaches in after church, so whatever time that is for them, we kind of all trickle in. Coordinators are sharing those playlist cut-ups. Position coaches and coordinators are starting to formulate the game plan. I would say our coordinators have about a third of the game plan complete by the time we get there on Sunday. Players in at 2, all game planning shuts down at that point, and all our focus is on the kids. We have a full team meeting, kind of a quick recap of the game from Friday night, preview of what's coming up for the week. We have our in-season lift, first in-season lift, while one group is doing some conditioning. It's mostly like pulling sleds, sprinting, pulling sleds. They do that and flip. 3:15, we go into special teams, group meetings, individual position meetings, and all of that. About 2/3 of the film that we watch on Sunday is going to be from the game from Friday night. About a third of it will be from the upcoming opponent. Right there at the end, the last 10 minutes, we'll have a little walkthrough of some of the shifts and motions and formations that we'll be using for that week. Then we cut the kids loose. Coaches stay to finish the game plan.
Coach, you got a couple of questions here.
Yep.
When you watch film on Sunday, do you watch the entire game or selected clips?
Selected clips. I'll tell you one thing that I found is now with the with Sky Coach or your huddle sideline, your replay stuff, you've watched it with the kids already. Like we have, having one-way players. I mean, you already chewed the kid out for missing the blitz on Friday night. There's no need to chew him out again on Sunday for the same thing, So there's a playlist those coaches are expected to pull out to show just those clips because you don't have enough time. Like as the O-line coach, you don't have enough time to hit every single clip of the game on Sunday. We'd be there all night.
How do you dole out who breaks down the opponent film during the week? Do you have a large enough staff to distribute those duties, or do you mostly do it by yourself?
Yeah, no, we distribute it out. Like our staff is we have 5 offensive coaches, 4 defensive coaches, and myself. So 10 of us for the JV and the varsity staff. And everybody kind of has their own things that they're supposed to put there, yard line and all that. The huddle assist thing, hopefully they get it fixed, but all that did was make more work for us. So we input all of our stuff with the coaches.
Would you do the same practice schedule if the JV game was Thursday?
No, that's a good question. So our JV games were on Wednesday nights. And one of the big contingencies for all of our staff when we sat down to do this schedule was Wednesday night, we wanted to go home. It wouldn't have done us any good to finish practice at 3:30, but have a JV game at 6. So we really made a push with the opponents that we had in JV to play on Monday nights, and pretty much all of them were good with that. That way, like with this practice schedule, if you can get to Tuesday, if you get through Tuesday, you're home free. And it's really mentally helps keep the kids and the coaches fresh.
And last question here from a coach. What happens when you play on Saturday?
That's a good question. We haven't had to play any Saturday games this year. We did have a Thursday game this year. I would maybe, if we played on a Saturday, I might consider just giving the kids off on Sunday and then bump everything back a day. But, one thing I've found with these practice schedules is, I talked to 1 million people about this No Sweat Wednesday, and I'm going to show that here when I get to Wednesday. But everybody has to take what maybe somebody else did or what they like from somebody else and fit it into what works for you. Because what works for you in your special situation and how your school is and how your setup is not going to be, you can't take this, cookie cut it, and put it into any other school. This works for Catholic, but there's probably a lot of things that you could do or manipulate to make it fit to what you do. Good?
One more just came in, Coach. I apologize. How do you practice with the JV and varsity practicing together? How do you make sure all the kids are getting the reps that they need to do in competitive situations together?
Yeah. So we don't really get the JV. The only time the JV is all together and they're running plays that we run competitively, or practicing is in the JV game. We try to make sure that the drill work and when they're a scout team, that we try to put those things into context for them as much as we can so that they can go out and execute on a Monday night in a JV game. I don't know what our JV record is or whatever, but I don't know if we've lost a JV game in 3 or 4 years now, even though they don't, practice their stuff together, So it can be done, and maybe you can see it throughout the practice, just how little, there's not a ton of full 11 on 11 stuff that we do. So the kids do get a good bit of fundamental work in the practice before they have to be scout team guys. Monday. So Monday, we're still formulating the game plan. We're still watching the film. We certainly don't have it all together by then. The OC is going to script and card Monday's practice segments. The O-line coach will script and card inside drill and any kind of run polish segment. The coaches will informally meet up with the OC during their off hours and during the day to talk about anything new or a point of emphasis. Special teams, depth charts, and even what the drills are and where they get set up. We have a whiteboard in the locker room, the special teams coordinator. He doesn't get a meeting on Monday. His meeting is he draws it all up on the whiteboard, and the kids are supposed to check that board at some point during the day to know where they're going to be for what drills and what the coaching points are. Players are in position meetings on Monday from 1:57 to 2:47, so it's a good long meeting. A lot of that is review of the practice schedule, what drill work they're going to be doing, and it's a ton of installation. There's very little film that's going to be watched on Monday's meeting. Pre-practice starts at 3:10. Players are usually on the field by 3:05. Okay, here's our practice schedule for a Monday, right? And I'm going to go through what each one of these segments means. But this is our practice schedule. Those are our 5 offensive coaches from left to right. That's QBs, running backs, receivers, O-line, and tight end H's. Okay, so the whole thing's segmented by 5-minute segments. We use the scoreboard clock, like the actual time, as our segment. We don't have a big fancy segment timer. We just put the time up there, and we know period 6 starts at 3:50. Okay. If you look at it, the first 11 periods of the practice are completely split. The O is doing their thing, and the D is doing theirs, and it's all individual, fundamental, and group work. So the JVs get a bunch of work there. Once we hit 12 for the special teams, it's all going to be mixed up. And I'm going to go through what each one of these segments offensively is for us, but you can get an idea of how long we're in each segment. And how we divide the segments up. There's more to the bottom of this. It got cut off. I think the practice goes 25 or 26 periods on Monday. So we're off the field by about 5:25. So about 2 hours and 15 minutes on the field on Monday. Again, in shells. Pre-practice, QC exchange with the running backs. All right, that's pre-practice. We usually give the script to the QBs, and they're going to tell the running backs and the centers, hey, we're going to run this play, that play, whatever. O-line and H's are doing everyday drills. Running backs are doing active stretch, active warm-up, and ball security. QBs, when the exchange is over, are doing their EDDs, wide receivers, merry-go-round ball drills, movement drills, stationary catches. The coaches and the players are responsible to have the players warmed up and ready for practice. We do not stretch. There is no part in our practice that's the dynamic warm-up or the stretch. That is what pre-practice is for. So the receivers are getting stretched by jogging, catching balls, and doing some stretches in the back of their line, that kind of thing. Walk through. We do that, O-skill walk, we go over new formation shifts, all that. It's usually 10 minutes, but if it ends sooner, we just send them the individual. The ones and what we call 1.5. So 1.5 for us is a guy that will get in the game on a Friday night, but maybe he's not a starter. The 2s and the 3s are the look team for the walkthrough. Running backs are usually getting some kind of ball security work in the back when they're not in. Wide receivers in the back getting tennis ball drills, ball work when they're not in. Mesh, QBs and running backs and wide receivers are involved in that. That are the receivers that could be a pitch man. It's like the old school option period. You hand the dive off, the QB carries out the fake, gets a ball from a coach, and then carries out the pitch phase. With these are where we work on different or new tricky meshes for the week. Running backs during this will set up reads for themselves with the bag. So like if they're running inside zone, there'll be a running back there with the bag to move it one way or the other so the back has to make a cut so that it's a good fundamental drill for him too. Give them clear expectations about the finish. We tell them they need to burst through 2 lines. It's got to be at full speed because you can't work meshes at half speed. That doesn't work. And then in the game, all of a sudden, you're trying to do it full speed. Shorten the distance for a speed sweep guy. Don't make it run the whole way so he can save his legs. Everybody gets work here. All the players, 1s, 2s, 3s, doesn't matter. Carry out fakes. Be specific. Here's an example. If I'm a tailback, we run inside zone and I don't get it. There are 2 things that we have to do. 1, they have to jump cut to the front side. And 2, they put their hand up in the top of their shoulder pads like they're carrying the ball. Instead of telling them, hey, be a good carry out fake guy, right? Give them specifics on what they need to do in order to do that. We did this so good one year that the newspaper actually wrote a story about our QBs and our running backs carrying out fakes. But you got to emphasize it, and you got to give them specifics. You can't just tell them, hey, carry out a fake. Routes on air. Yep.
Question for you. No dynamic warm-up or stretch in your philosophy behind this?
I think it's a waste of time. I think that if, you know, we do dynamic warm-ups like before we lift or in the off season or during the summertime and all that. You know, if I'm a receiver and I'm getting movement and working top end of routes in my pre-practice and I'm moving around and, you know, kind of getting myself warmed up and all that, I get a little stretching in the back of the line. You know, I've been taught how to stretch properly, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, why waste time doing that when we could be getting better at being an O-lineman or being a DB? Like, DBs, what do they do every pre-practice? They do back pedals, they do break drills, they're moving, they're doing dynamic warm-up. They might as well do it in the movements that are their position group. So we just don't do it. Routes on air, and I'm gonna need to start flying here, but one key thing about routes on air is the balls during this drill should not come out at the same time. Whichever QB has the first read, that ball should come out first, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, and the fifth. If all the balls are coming out at the same time, then the QBs aren't going through their progression. Similarly, if I'm the third guy in the progression as the QB, if I'm throwing the third route in the progression, I need to have my eyes on one, then my eyes on two, then throw three. So be on them about that. All this I can send to you guys. You can catch the coaching points later. I want to get to some of this other stuff. I want to make sure I don't miss this. So inside drill, just so you have an idea how we do inside drill. The defense always goes first. The first 4 plays are the ones offense running the scout team against the ones defense. So it's our best O guys. They're running the first 4 plays of the opponent's offense in inside drill. And then the next 8 are the scout O against the first and 1.5 D. Then we flip it. Offense is up. Offense will go the first 8 plays versus the scout, and then the last 4 plays versus the first team defense. What that does is it allows those first team guys to get a break before they go out and be the scout team. That's how we handle inside drill. Everybody stays off the ground in inside drill. We are a no huddle team, but in inside drill, we always huddle because, you know, we communicate to the linemen what the play might be. Our defensive guys have heard it so many times, they would know what the play was. One thing that we tell them is a stud tempo. We should hear the contact. The whistle stops the contact, but it doesn't stop the play in practice for us. So the running back finishes, the defense is continuing to try to strip the ball carrier and rally to the ball carrier even after I've blown the whistle to stop contact. We do a perimeter drill. Probably could be a whole clinic in and of itself, but I'm going to skip ahead. I want to get to couple of more things. So we instituted a break this year. We've never had a break in our practice. The kids just get water. They're free to get water anytime they want during the practice. This year we put in a 10-minute segment for break. It doesn't take all 10 minutes, but we have gummy bears and we have a cup of Powerade for every kid on the team. And they go through in the middle of practice. They get 1 or 2 packs of the little gummy bears and they down a thing of Powerade. It's really inexpensive. We had a big reward from it. And it's a good time for the coaches to kind of give personal attention to the players and talk to them about maybe something that isn't going on in practice. But I would suggest to you that you do that. It's not, we got all our stuff from Sam's, and the players are the ones that put it together. They put it together during the 8th-hour football period, and they're putting it in the ice chests, and our trainer, we have 2 athletic trainers. They're the ones making the Gatorade. So use your players. But I think that's instituted this year. Call outs at the end of practice. This is something we stole from our O-line, D-line camp that we go to every year, run by Pete Jenkins. What at the end of practice, every coach gets the opportunity to call out the kid for something. And these are things like, hey, I want to call out, Johnny Smith. I saw Johnny Smith getting some awesome mental reps in the back of Skell. And then even being more specific, like I watched him go through his read progression, or something very specific, not results oriented or process oriented things that you notice. It gives all the coaches an opportunity to call somebody out. It can't just be, hey, the running backs did good today. It's got to be specific. It needs to be short. Usually frowned upon to call out your own players. All right. So I want to get to Wednesday. Tuesday is very, very similar, and I can send all this to you guys, including how we taper it. But let's talk about Wednesday here. I'm going to end with our Wednesday, Thursday stuff. So why did we go to the Wednesday walkthrough? Okay. I'm big on this. If we've been doing something the same way for a long time, there's some times where I might just come into the coaches in the off season and say, you know what? I want to blow up the way that we get plays in. We've been getting plays in the same way for 14 years now. Surely we can come up with something better. We did that a couple years ago, and the system that we came up with is so much better than what we used to do. And I was this past off season, I just thought, you know what, we've been practicing this way for so long. I kind of felt like Wednesday and Thursday, there was a lot of like doubled up stuff. And my initial thoughts here were, can we just get rid of a whole day of practice? Like, could we just add a little bit to one of the other practices and then not even practice, right? So I gave these parameters to the coaches, and we worked on this for a long time. I said, I don't want to miss one single rep from all the practices that we normally do. And I want to eliminate the whole day from the schedule and only add 20 to 30 minutes to all the other days combined, right? The only logical day you could omit was Wednesday. Thursday would have made no sense. Like, don't go out there and do any football on Thursday and then expect them to go play well on Friday. So Wednesday was on the chopping block. We tried to do that, but it just wasn't possible, like to send them just completely home on a Wednesday. Changed JV to Monday night. Wednesday became the walkthrough. Added a little time to Thursday. I'm not the person that is on staff that is the guru of stuff like central nervous system fatigue. We have two other coaches on our staff that could probably explain this to you better, but the gist of it is, in our old system, our kids' central nervous system never got a break. It was active on Monday, it was active Tuesday, it was active Wednesday, and it was even active on Thursday in what we used to do. And so then it's certainly active on a Friday. And so you get central nervous system fatigue. By giving them Wednesday off, it shuts their central nervous system down completely. Thursday ramps it back up to get it ready for a Friday night. Talked to a bunch of guys about it, high school coaches, college coaches. Keith Grabowski, one of the USA football guys, helped us he put a tweet out there and said, hey, who's doing it? I talked to all kinds of people. There's a lot of people doing this. We certainly aren't the first to do it. We finally made the jump to it, and the kids were really resistant. They were worried that we weren't going to be practicing enough. They were like, wait, we're not going to practice a full day on Wednesday, Like, they were really worried about it. Another thing is, when are we going to get all these special teams work? How would we correct film from Thursday's practice in meetings? Like, once Thursday's practice is over, how do you correct the film? Some more things about the Wednesday walkthrough. Nobody on Wednesday should run full speed. It needs to be a full rest for the central nervous system. Thursday, the book, the people who are adamant about this say that you shouldn't run more than 20 or 30 full speed sprints. We tracked one of our guys on a Thursday, and he ran like 45 or 50 of them maybe. But we couldn't get around it, so this is what works for us. Maybe because of the way we practice or the way that our scheme is or whatever, we just couldn't get it to that number. If you can get through Tuesday, you're rolling, keeps you mentally fresh. Wednesday night kind of felt like the night before a game. That took some getting used to. People worried about injury on Thursday, but they could have gotten injured on a Wednesday. I mean, it's sort of an even trade-off. Here's something we didn't realize until we did it, and that was it allowed for better return to play for our concussion kids. So say a kid got a concussion on whatever day, and he needs that one contact practice before he can play in a game. Well, what it did was it gave those kids an extra day of rest on Wednesday. And we had a couple of kids who used Thursday as their full speed day back through the protocol, and then were able to play on a Friday night because they had that full speed practice on a Thursday, right? Also, your soft tissue kids, right? Monday, they bang. Tuesday, they bang. Wednesday, they bang, So they miss Wednesday practice if they're banged up a little bit, right? Well, those guys now, they go Monday, Tuesday, and they're kind of banged up. They got a little injury, nagging thing here or there. They get Wednesday off, and we get more out of them on Thursday. Everybody I talked to said, you got to be all in on this. Don't start changing stuff once you go to this just because you might lose a game, right? You got to be all in if you're going to switch to it, okay? I'm going to skip this, but I'll send it to you guys. This is the presentation I made to the team when I presented it to them, okay? Our results on this, the kids loved it eventually. It took them some time. The coaches and the coaches' wives loved it. We were all home by 4 o'clock or earlier on Wednesdays. The kids, I felt like, played faster than they've ever played before. The kids and coaches were way more fresh on a Friday night, but the preparation didn't get sacrificed. There's a lot of reasons for why we were 10-0 in the regular season this year. I think this was one of them, but we were 10-0 in the regular season. We beat 2 teams that eventually won state championships, 1 runner-up, and a state semifinalist in the first 5 games of the year. We had a running clock in 7 of our regular season games. We lost in the state championship, heartbreaker, but played really well. Had fewer soft tissue injuries. Kids were, by Friday, they're starving for contact. Like, they are ready to whip tail on Friday because of this practice schedule. So this is Wednesday. Meetings. The special teams on Wednesday are for any special teamer that touches the ball, all right? Kickers, holders, snappers, returners. So our returners are still catching punts. Kickers are still kicking. We're still snapping. We couldn't give those guys a full day of like not doing anything because they needed to get those reps. Do a red zone walkthrough. We do a goal line short yardage walkthrough, and then we do a run polish segment. No helmets, just tennis shoes, funny hats, All right, here's Thursday. All right, Thursday, truthfully, is longer than the book says it should be, right? But that's just the way we had to do it. So this is our Thursday schedule. It's very situational. It's scout. Once we hit that script part, those little 6s and 2s, those are the number of reps that we're going to get in that segment. And it's all these different situations that we're going to work throughout that practice. And we're usually off the field by 4:30, if not maybe a little bit sooner. That's our Thursday. Thursday is padded, and we're hitting. It's done. Guys are going at it. This year, we're going to add some good versus good to this, like some ones versus ones, like our offensive scheme versus our defensive scheme. And really, that's one thing we're going to add through the week more than what we had done this year is more our offense versus our defense with the ones versus the ones for 4 plays in a specific situation or 6 plays in a specific situation. That's something that we're going to be adding to just help acclimate to game speed throughout the week. Some Thursday notes: the JV players lift, and then the varsity players have meetings. And this is the day for the OC that he meets with all the skilled players together rather than being in position groups. Friday, here's what we do on a Friday. During the 8th hour, the last period is a football period. They take a nap. I think that's really, really awesome. When the bell rings to end school, we have a prayer service. Kids get dressed at tape and have pregame meal. The O linemen have meetings first, going over all the game plan. Then we do position meetings. We go through reminders. We cover all our one-word calls on offense, and then we walk through the opening script. We have a full special teams meeting and a full team meeting, and then we're out the door. I know I flew through that. I've got a couple of practice clips. Do I have time to show a little bit of practice tape or no?
Yeah, Coach, you got some time.
Okay. I'm going to show y'all perimeter drill. We do this once a week. During the early season, we'll do this live and tackle to the ground. The blocking and the block defeat is live during the season, but nobody gets tackled to the ground. So for perimeter drill, it's 3x1 or it's 2x2, and we're running now screens to 3, now screen to 1, now and go to 1, or now and go to 3. And I've got all the parameters for this on the PowerPoint, but this is just a really good drill for the offense and the defense to compete, and everybody goes in it, like 2s, 3s, 4s, it doesn't matter. Every guy is getting reps. We just tell the kids to police it themselves, like, hey, make sure we got good versus good, make sure we got young versus young, and they do a really good job of making sure that that's the case. But this is just, now screen to 3, and we're blocking and, getting after it on the perimeter, okay? You got to make sure that your defensive coordinator, his goal can't be to win the drill, and his goal needs to be to make it realistic. So you notice like this linebacker right here, notice when the ball snapped, he kind of takes a lead step before he goes, and he's tucked away in the box. Depending on what coverage he's wanting to work that day, the defensive coordinator, these guys will be in different positions, but don't cheat the drill. The defense and the offense have to be on the same page for this. But it's a great drill to work on all that perimeter blocking and perimeter ball disruption to the defense. One thing I'll tell you is we changed this year is that the first 2 reps of perimeter drill are always cloud by the corner, because when we were mixing it in, we found that it was a pretty dangerous situation when we were clouding the corner and the receivers didn't know it. They missed it. And they run into the number 3 who's not looking. So everybody knows, the receivers know and the corner knows, the first 2 reps we're going to cloud it so that the defense can still get their cloud work, and we get work on blocking cloud when we throw it now screen. So that's something, an adjustment that we made, the perimeter drill. Couple other little practice things I've got, just so you kind of get the sense of the walkthrough day. All right, this is run polish for us on walkthrough day. So all the guys that could get blocked are holding shields, and we're just going through any shifts and motions we got. Right here, we're just running power, okay? And that's the walkthrough. That is the speed at which we're doing things. It is not getting after it. Now, it's heavy focus on the middle day, right? But very, very slow pace for the walkthrough day. And goal line, man, I'm an old school guy. I really am. And so, man, let's do some live goal line short yardage. We just couldn't fit it in anywhere. So our goal line has always been this year. Our goal line is on this walkthrough day, just making sure like everybody knows who's got who. We got a hat for a hat, and everybody's taken care of. If we're going to do some situational stuff, I think this year that would be a really good thing to work situationally. Would be some short yardage stuff, but we keep everybody up off the ground during practice. Nobody gets tackled to the ground. Here's a drill that's on there that I didn't talk about. This is during our Tuesday practice. This drill we added a couple of years ago. It's called track drill. And this is like individual type work with the running backs and the O-line. And what we're doing here is the most common runs we have for that week. The against the various fronts, and the O-linemen making their calls, and the back learning, hey, when it's this front on this play, this is more likely to be a cutback, or this is more likely to bounce, or this is my read. And so we card this and we go through it, and the backs are learning. So for example, the reason this was in this week, this is power, and we normally hand power same side. Well, we wanted to put the back on the other side this week, so we put him in track drill to make sure when he's coming across that he doesn't get too wide. When they come across on power, because we're an A-gap power team, they tend to be too wide in the track. So, all right, we're in track drill. Let's make him come across and make sure he's staying in that A-gap track. I think that's probably all the time I got. I had to skip through a bunch of that practice stuff, but man, all the notes are on there on the PowerPoint. Every practice schedule is up there on the PowerPoint, including an explanation of the drills. And I'm an open book. I mean, if anybody wants to ask questions about that, email me or catch me, DM me on Twitter, and I'll be glad to send you anything that I've got in terms of the PowerPoint or the playlists or anything like that. I'm going to put that contact back up for the end here. All right, this is my contact info. Well, it was my contact info. Here's my contact. Email me, and I'll be glad to send you whatever you need. Any last questions on there?
No, just kind of what you were talking about in regards to the PowerPoint. Obviously, people are definitely interested in that. Anybody else with a couple last-minute questions for Coach? And while they're doing that, Coach, just wanted to thank you, man, for jumping on with us and giving a great presentation.
Yeah, it was good for me to put it together. It helped me, get back into practice organization mode and all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
so
yes,
appreciate you having me on.
I think we're good, Coach Police.
Awesome.
He had no, they don't. He had answered that earlier. He was asking about stretching before the game.
Yep. Before a game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now before a game, our kids will do they know like a whole scripted, choreographed, dynamic warm-up that we teach them during the off season. And before a game, like if my group is about to go out for whatever my individual stuff is before the game, then 5 minutes before my group is scheduled to go out, that group's going to do the dynamic warm-up before they go out on game day.
Cool. Anyone else? Last minute questions? Yes. And you said it before, right? You guys don't have any student managers, nothing, right?
Nothing. We use kids. We film with kids that are on the team. Quick, funny story. We had a tailback, Clyde Edwards-Elaire, that played for LSU this year. That's going to get drafted first or second round. When Clyde was hurt his senior year, he had a little foot injury for a couple of weeks. Guess who was filming practice? Potential first-round draft pick guy.
Really?
Everybody can film. What we do is we take 5 to 10 minutes at the first practice of the year, and we teach every kid how to use our little stick camera. It's a little basic thing. It works really good. But we teach every kid how to use it one time. Like, here's the whole team. I'm going to show everybody how to use it. Hey, every one of you suckers, if we can't find somebody to film, you better pick this thing up and get ready to film. And we use the iPads and cell phones and stuff like that for individual filming as well.
Awesome. Coach, I really appreciate you jumping on with us, man, and giving a great presentation, spending time with us. And I know you had a couple other ones this week, so definitely grateful for you to jump on, man, and talk to us.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to do the Power O one tomorrow. So if anybody
awesome.
wants that one, I'll put it out there on Twitter, whatever the link is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure to retweet that out for you.
Yep.
All right,
guys.
guys.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.